Hi everyone! Today we will be making Skillet buttermilk biscuits. Welcome to my brick oven lifestyle. So to make the Skillet buttermilk biscuits, I use 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a little bit of additional flour at the end. We'll use a little bit for dusting the board, so I usually say 1/4 cup, a tablespoon of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of butter that I chopped up and kept chilled. And then I have the buttermilk. I have 3/4 cup of buttermilk. I mix the dry ingredients together really well. Then I put the butter in, and I'm just taking the pieces and squeezing them, trying to keep them from getting too warm. You don't want your butter to melt. I'm just going around the bowl to squeeze them and make them into smaller pieces. You can use a pastry cutter. I find it takes about the same amount of time. Just do it with your fingers, plus I can get the butter a little bit more even into small pieces, so I use this. Now we have all the dry ingredients mixed, the butter's nice and even in here. I'm going to take a 3/4 cup of buttermilk, and I like to use the real buttermilk. I've tried it with substitution using lemon juice. This works best, so pour that right on top. And you can use a fork, you can use a wooden spoon, whatever you want, but what you're trying to do is just mix this until you get a crumbly look with the dough. So once I get it into a crumble like this, and I get the dough off the side of the bowl, I am just going to pour it out onto the cutting board. Now, different doughs like to be treated different ways. This dough likes to be treated very gentle. You're not going to be kneading it really, more of you're forming it into a ball, into a disc. So this is where the extra flour comes in play too. If it gets a little sticky, you can just put a little bit more flour over it. But I am just simply molding it into a shape here, trying to get it to stick together. And as the edges, you can see, they try to crack away. So I use my hand on the sides and just push them together. And as you mold this a little bit more, it will start sticking together much better. Then when I get it to a disc shape about this, 6-8 inches round, I take the top and I fold it over. This is going to help mix it, and it's also going to help make those biscuits even more fluffy. So again, push it together, turn it 1/2 turn, because I like to fold it twice. So now I'm just going to try to get it back into that disc shape again. This is really the best way I've found to really make those biscuits fluffy. All right, one more time, I'm going to fold the top down over the bottom. At this point, I can feel it sticking together a little bit better too. And if the bottom is sticking, just get a little bit more flour underneath there. You don't want to put too much flour in, or it starts to get dried out, but at the same time, if it's too sticky, you can't really handle it well. All right, let's get, still having a little bit of breaking away here on this side, so I'm just going to really push that together. Now at this point, you can use your hands to flatten this out. We're going to try to get it between 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch for the biscuits, or you can use a rolling pin. I'm going to use a rolling pin because it just helps me get it the thickness evenly. You want even thickness because these biscuits are all baking at the same time in the oven, and they won't bake evenly if you don't have that thickness right. I'm going to put just a little bit of flour on top. It's starting to stick. And we're getting close. Depends how many biscuits you want. I try to make around 8, so I go with this thickness. All right, that is good. I use a 2-inch biscuit cutter. And if it's sticking a little bit, you can just rub your fingers around it and get a little bit of flour on it. And then I start making my biscuits. So you want to push down, but you don't want to twist, because when you twist, you take some of that flakiness away from the biscuit, I found. So you just want to push down and pull away, and there's your first biscuit. See if I can get 2 more out of here. There's 1. 1 more. So I'm going to take the rest of the dough and just set it aside and start putting these in the skillet. For this skillet, I can make, this is a 9-inch skillet. You can use a bigger skillet also. I can get about 7 biscuits in here. So you take the extra dough that you have, same thing, you're just pushing it together, molding it. You can use your rolling pin. You don't have to at this point. I usually just use my hands because it's a smaller amount of dough. And I'm going to flatten it out. And since I just have a smaller 9-inch pan, I'm just going to do 1 more biscuit out of this. A lot of times I'm using or I'm buying a quart of buttermilk at a time, so I'm making multiple batches. So I am just reusing my dough as I go, make probably 8 batches at one time. Okay, so there's our biscuits. So we have our biscuits ready to go, fresh. A lot of times when I bake biscuits, though, I have to say I bake batches ahead of time and I freeze them. And it's so much easier because biscuits taste best when they just come out of the oven and you're ready to eat. So what I do is just put frozen biscuits in here instead of the fresh and bake them at, I think it was 375 for 10 to 12 minutes in the brick oven. But for today, we're going to do the nice fresh ones. I'm going to put them into the brick oven now. Before we put the biscuits in, I would like to show you a little bit of how I do some prep for the brick oven to make sure we have the right temperature. We're at 375, and that's what we want to bake the biscuits at. So what I do is I have a brush, it's a brass bristle brush, and I'm just making sure that I have my space available to cook on. I keep my fire over to the side, and I like to keep it burning just lowly. And right now it's just perfect. As I get down to coals, I'll put on another little piece in there. Since I have the oven open a lot, I need to maintain that fire, but the brick is super hot right now. So we're going to take the pan and put it into the brick oven now. So I'm going to set it right in this space. It's cooking now down from the top, sides, and the bottom. And I'm going to check this periodically and make sure that the biscuits aren't getting too brown in one area, and I'll rotate the pan to prevent that. If they're starting to get just overly brown, I'll put a piece of foil on top to prevent that. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes with the biscuits in the oven. Let's go ahead and check them. Oh, that looks looks perfect. That's what we want. A nice brown top. So the biscuits are cooled down now. Let's just look at one quick as we pick it up. The bottoms don't get real burned, which is really nice. You don't really have to worry about the bottoms of what you're cooking getting burnt before you really have to worry about the top getting burnt. That's more exposed to the heat. So they're nice and flaky and light. I like to keep them in a bowl like this so that I can actually just cover them up and keep them warm until we're ready to eat them. If you enjoy our videos and like the brick oven lifestyle, please feel free to subscribe so we can send you new videos and updates.